How would you like a 15% discount to my daily email, the stack of stuff, the show notes, discounts to the conference, all of that? All you need to do is text the word show to 33777. You'll get the annual subscription with a 15% discount to my daily email. You'll get the stack of stuff, the links to the show notes, discounts to the conference, and so much more. All you have to do is text the word show, SHOW, to 33777. Text show to 33777.
Welcome to the Eric Erickson Show podcast, Hour 2.
Greetings and welcome. It's Eric Erickson here across the United States. Glad to have you with me. 877-973-7425 is the phone number if you want to be on the show. If you text the word Eric, E-R-I-C-K, to 33777, you get the live stream, the show notes, the podcast, the social media links, the 4 things, everything you need to keep in touch with the show. We got to talk about jobs, and jobs is, well, it's complicated. When Joe Biden was president, Republicans would come out and say, we don't believe the numbers are right. The numbers would inevitably be revised down. And then when Donald Trump became president, the Democrats would say they didn't believe it. And then Donald Trump fired the head of the Bureau of Labor Statistics. And now even people in the business community are like, I don't know that we can trust the data. Sounds like they're telling the president what he wants to hear. Your mileage may vary on that, but it's a conversation that's out there. But we should just treat the things as they are. And if they're revised later, I'll tell you about the revisions. And we have to start with the 2025 jobs revision, which was bad. We were told at the end of the year last year that in 2025, 584,000 new jobs were created. They have revised the number, and it's actually not good. It was revised from 584,000 down to 181,000 total jobs created in 2025. And a lot of that actually had to do with layoffs within the federal government. The Labor Department, this is for the Wall Street Journal, Bureau of Labor Statistics on Wednesday said the U.S. added just 1.5 million jobs in 2024, below the previous estimate of 2 million. And in 2025, the labor market added only 181,000 jobs versus the previous estimate of 584,000. 2 separate revisions are mainly at play. First, the Bureau of Labor Statistics released its annual benchmark revision, which accompanies each year's January employment report, which revises job growth estimates for the year ending the previous March. Wednesday's revision showed that there was a seasonally adjusted 898,000 fewer jobs previously reported. Second, the Bureau of Labor Statistics adjusted the methodology it uses to estimate how many businesses open and close each month, which affects the job figures for the remainder of 2025. So you got a couple of adjustments in there. By the way, everybody tends to acknowledge that the changes in how the jobs data is collected are good. But the Democrats now claim that the Trump numbers are wrong, as the Trump team claimed that the Democrats' numbers were wrong. The bottom line is twofold. One, there has been a lot of reduction in federal government workforce, which is a good thing. And two, as the public sector job has declined, private sector job growth has increased. And we now have the numbers for January, and these are the numbers raising eyebrows because like 99% of economists and job experts surveyed didn't think there was a lot of job growth in January. And in fact, yesterday there was this odd phenomenon. Yesterday, Kevin Hassett, the president's economic advisor, and also Scott Bessent were on TV and elsewhere, and Howard Lutnick as well, and they were all downplaying, and Peter Navarro were downplaying the job numbers for January, essentially telling people don't get your hopes up. Now, they were on TV before the jobs numbers came out privately. So the White House gets an advance look the day before. And before the advance look came out yesterday, you had the Trump team on TV downplaying jobs numbers for January, as every economist in America, save for like 5, were also saying there weren't going to be a lot of jobs in January. Guess what? Turns out January was a very good month for jobs. 130,000 jobs. Let's put this in contrast. In 2025, according to the Trump administration, only 181,000 jobs were created. In the entire year of 2025, 181,000 new jobs created. In January of this year, 130,000. That's remarkable. It's the strongest job growth in over a year. Surprised everybody, including the Trump administration. It wasn't just the private people. The Trump team as well didn't think the number was going to be good, and it turns out it was good. There is some downside to the jobs number. Where's the growth? Well, the construction sector grew by 33,000 jobs, not in housing construction, in data center construction. Financial services and the information sector lost 34,000 jobs, while business services gained 10,000 jobs. So where did all the growth come from? Wasn't government. It was the healthcare sector. More and more people are being hired in the healthcare sector. Now, that's pretty normal. But if we pull back the curtain a little bit, it's kind of foreboding long term. And this is why. Why are so many people getting hired in healthcare? Because Americans are getting older. As Americans get older, as our population doesn't replenish itself at renewal rates that grow the population, we either have to import immigrants or we got to recognize societal decline. The boomers are getting old, and they're going into nursing homes and hospitals. And so the healthcare sector is exploding. The problem is the millennials are not having a lot of kids. Gen X, we're kind of out of the childbearing ages right now. We're headed into middle age and old age. The millennials, they are the ones, and the older Gen Zers are the ones that should be having kids, the Gen Alphas. And they're not. They're not having kids. And so we're looking at societal decline over time unless Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce have kids and start a baby boom in this country. Baby booms are contagious, and Taylor Swift is the one who could single-handedly save America. If she and Travis Kelce start producing kids, my goodness, every young woman in this country is going to want to start having kids if Taylor Swift normalizes having children. Oh, y'all know it's true. I'm not even trying to be funny here. It's God's honest truth. Otherwise, we got problems long term. It also suggests that the underlying economic fundamentals can be a little shaky here. Why? Because if healthcare is growing, but the financial sector is not, that's a little bit troubling. The professional white-collar workers out there are losing their jobs, some of them to AI, some of them to other issues. That's a problem as well. There was a drop in the number of people working part-time, but they couldn't find full-time jobs, and that also is messing with the data. Let me read you this key paragraph here. The new numbers give ammunition to inflation-wary hawks who will point to signs that interest rates aren't meaningfully restricting economic activity. The evidence includes the continued decline in the jobless rate, a drop in the number of people working part-time because they couldn't find full-time work, and a decrease in ranks of those unemployed for more than 6 months, all of which suggest the labor market stabilizing after the softening that prompted 3 consecutive rate cuts last year. Among other positive signs, the median length of unemployment last month declined to 11.1 weeks, down from 11.4 weeks in December. Average hourly and weekly earnings ticked up at the same time, though. The unemployment rate for people who held at least a bachelor's degree increased to 2.9%. The U.S. job market has been defined for months by companies holding off new hires, but not slashing jobs en masse, though there were some big high-profile cuts at Amazon and UPS. The situation has made it harder for young graduates to find a foothold and left many unemployed Americans stuck in long, often fruitless job searches. The dramatically lower estimates for jobs in the past 2 years stems mainly from 2 government revisions. One is the annual benchmark revision. The other is the adjustment the agency made to its methodology. There are warning signs in the economy because of the sectors that aren't growing, but it's good jobs numbers for Donald Trump to say. By the way, wages have stabilized. That's another good thing for the president. They're starting to outpace inflation. That's good. People feel like they have more take-home pay. But there's also another problem. Dare I bring it up? Tariffs. In fact, one of the reasons that jobs last year didn't do so well is companies were saying that they weren't sure how tariffs would play out. They're still not, but many of the companies can't keep delaying the projects that they put on hold last year, so they're beginning to engage. If they feel more effects of tariffs, that could change. And by the way, the Congressional Budget Office is now out with a report on tariffs, and the Congressional Budget Office has found what the St. Louis Federal Reserve has found what the San Francisco Federal Reserve has found what the Tax Foundation has found what multiple other groups have found, and that is 95% of the tariffs are being paid for by Americans. 5%. Foreigners and foreign companies are either cutting the prices or they're paying the tariff for the importing company. 30% is American companies are completely absorbing the cost of the tariff. And the rest is American individuals, you and me, or the companies paying the higher price. We are the ones paying the tariffs. Now, it is as I always told you it would be. And to the extent that the economy is not doing as well as it should be doing, the tariffs have a lot to do with it. And the president is so convinced that the tariffs are a godsend, a blessing, and the perfect thing to solve all of our economic woes domestically, he's not backing down from them. It's going to take the Supreme Court to get rid of them. But the economic data. Now, I got to tell you that the National Taxpayers Union, I think, is one of them. That's a conservative group. Tax Foundation's considered pretty centrist, nonpartisan. The Congressional Budget Office, nobody likes them. The San Francisco Fed and the St. Louis Fed, pretty well respected. The New York Fed, too. I forgot that one. So you got 3 different Federal Reserve branches, all of which very respected. All of them say Americans are the ones covering the costs. To the extent people feel like they're worse off, and most people do, it's because the effect of the tariffs. But the president's team won't change on it. They're convinced they're good. The president's team is also convinced of something else, and we will see in the next 2-3 months. The president's team is convinced that when people realize the benefits they're getting from the tax package from last year, that they will suddenly realize the economy is doing great. And I sure hope that's the case, because we got to stave off Democratic advances, which I'll talk about at the bottom of the hour. I've got some concerns. The President of the United States really genuinely believes that when people start feeling the effects of the tax reforms from the One Big Beautiful Bill Act, that they will realize the economy is doing well. And, there is a lot of data out there that suggests the economy is doing good. There's some that suggest there are problems, some that suggest it's doing well. The problem right now is people aren't feeling the good side effects of it, or the good effects. And the president's team is convinced that when you start getting your tax refunds this year, you will realize, things aren't that bad. And you'll feel the benefits of it. I hope that's the case. In fact, the mood among consumers has increased. Consumer sentiment is actually in positive territory. This is kind of one of those weird things. Consumer sentiment has increased, but people are still, by majority, are saying they don't think the economy is doing well for their neighbors. That's always a warning sign. Go back to the 1992 election between George H.W. Bush and Bill Clinton. People were saying to the polling that their personal economic situation was fine, but they thought their neighbor's situation was not fine, and that led them to vote for Bill Clinton out of concern for their neighbor. And we're kind of in the same boat right now. People right now, majority of Americans believe that their situation is good, but their neighbor's situation is not. And they're holding that against the president. They also have concerns about their children and their children's job prospects. We're going to have to figure out how to get people to feel good about job prospects, among other things, if it's at all possible. And I hope it will be. The data out there, it's mixed, but trending really good. And the president has kept a singular promise that no Democrat would even make: reducing the size of the government and increasing the size of the private sector. bottom line is he's kept that promise. I got to see if I can do this one. For many years, I have told you guys the story of my friend John Echtel, who asked the question on social media, how many reporters know someone with an F-150 pickup truck? And the reporters went insane. They acted like he had accused them of a hate crime. And he exposed, in fact, that the F-150 is the most popular vehicle in the United States of America. And overwhelmingly, people in the National Press Corps don't know a single person who has an F-150 or a Dodge Ram or a Chevy Silverado, the three most popular vehicles in the United States. And it was showing just how much of a bubble they are in. And it was John, and sometimes I have given credit in the past to others, but it was actually John who did it. And I had to make that note last year. And John has died this morning at age 47. He had cancer, and I knew he did, and he asked me not to say anything to anyone. He reached out to me to tell me his diagnosis and ask about my wife, and has thereafter constantly insisted that I need not worry about him. I need to worry about my wife, and did not want me to even bother checking on him. He was that sort of guy. I did not know him well, just through Twitter, but certainly valued him. Charlie Cook from National Review was a very good friend of his. If not his best friend, and has a tribute to him. But I just wanted to say here, I have gotten a lot of mileage over the years out of John's tweet about F-150s going back to the first Trump term, when so many reporters were shocked Trump won. And he asked that question about, do you know anybody who drives an F-150? And none of the reporters did. Just a remarkably insightful person who will be deeply, deeply missed by a great many of us. I got to tell you about Vision Computer as well. Vision is a great company. I got a question actually from someone yesterday about them. It was somebody actually out west who was thinking of using them and was concerned because they're headquartered in Atlanta. I was like, you don't have to be concerned if you want their managed IT service. The managed IT service you guys were going to use isn't in California either. And the difference between the two is that you're going to have an actual human being that you deal with. So if you got a small business, you've got a business that still has to rely on people for technical support, computers, networking, things like that. And Vision can be that person for you, that company for you. Call them at 404-COMPUTER. Go to visioncomputers.com. Now, if you build your computers with Vision Computers, your IT support comes with the computer. You don't have to pay extra. Otherwise, their charges are real reasonable. I think it's $199 per computer. And your employees get a phone number, and they'll be able to call Vision, and in 15 seconds or less, a human being's going to answer the phone and is going to help them, guide them, get them set. They can even remote in. They can help them with email support. They can help them with printer support, whatever you need. It takes your mind off IT so your mind can be focused on your business. Give them a call at 404-COMPUTE or go to visioncomputers.com. If you call them at 404-COMPUTE, tell them Eric sent you. I got to wander down the blue sky rabbit hole with you guys for just a moment. You can have your laugh for today. It was Erica McIntarfer was the head of the Bureau of Labor Statistics. And she was fired by Donald Trump. She was a career statistician and economist at the Bureau of Labor Statistics. Highly respected by both sides. The president decided she was a Biden partisan, so he fired her. It is Erica McIntarfer today, who was fired by Donald Trump, who is defending Donald Trump's jobs numbers today. A lot of Democrats and members of the press saying that the numbers are garbage now. Erica McIntarfer is on Blue Sky, and she writes this: person who was fired here. You should still trust Bureau of Labor Statistics data. The agency is being run by the same dedicated career staff who were running it while I was awaiting confirmation from the Senate, and the staff have made it clear they would blow a loud whistle if there's interference. What makes this funny is a reply from an anonymous person saying, no, the head of Bureau of Labor Statistics Data Division is a Trump appointee, Brett Matsumoto, put into the position last summer after Trump was unhappy with the data released by his predecessor, Erica McTarfer. Whoever this know-it-all is replying to Erica McIntarfer, not Erica McTarfer. Erica McIntarfer is the actual Erica McIntarfer who was fired by Donald Trump. And that Erica McIntarfer is saying the data is still legit. They're still using the same methodologies. They can get it wrong, but this is not a case of them just doing so to make Donald Trump look good. And they would sound the whistle if they were being pressured. So when you've got Erica McIntarfer, who was pushed out by Donald Trump, saying the Bureau of Labor Statistics is legit and sound data, you should probably believe the data, members of the media. Related to all of that, I want to spend a moment with you, and I just want to express my frustration. And I can't be the only one who's frustrated. I can't be. The president last night said no more reconciliation package. At the beginning of the Trump administration, we were told there would be 2 reconciliation packages. The reconciliation package, just so you understand, is a reconciliation package that changes the rates of spending. It's based on all the appropriations that have just been passed, so it makes those adjustments. And you only need a majority vote. You don't have to have a vote that gets over the filibuster in the Senate. Just a majority vote. It bypasses reconciliation spending package, bypasses the filibuster in the United States Senate. Republicans right now are trying to push the SAVE Act through the Senate. By the way, I support the SAVE Act. I think it needs some improvements, but I support it. But I don't think it's worth blowing up the filibuster to get it. Now, some of you immediately say, well, the Democrats are going to blow up the filibuster when they get back into power. But are they? World War I started because European generals said, you know what, the other side's going to do this. We might as well do it first. When the other side, we know historically, actually wasn't planning on doing it, but both sides were like, well, the other side's going to do this one thing, so we might as well do this one thing before they do. The Senate Democrats have multiple times tried to kill the filibuster, never had the votes to kill it. And the Republicans say, well, but they would have. It was just Joe Manchin and Kristen Sinema who were there blocking it. And Joe Manchin and Kristen Sinema, which all of these people ignore, say actually there are not the votes in the Senate to do this, but we're going to be the public ones because some of the other ones are on the ballot this year and they don't want to get primaried. But otherwise, push comes to shove, they would protect the filibuster. And those people are still in the United States Senate. The Democrats don't have the votes to get rid of the filibuster. The Republicans don't have the votes to get rid of the filibuster. I don't understand why, as a practical solution, other than the president is insisting they do it, that they spend this amount of time on an internal fight that's going to divide Republicans from their Senate Republican counterparts in an election year over something that is not going to pass. Ladies and gentlemen, I cannot make it clearer than this. The votes do not exist in the United States Senate to kill the filibuster. So you have a choice. Focus on a piece of legislation that will never pass the United States Senate, or focus on reconciliation that bypasses the filibuster, and you can sell to the American people you're focused on affordability issues. I put that up this morning on social media, and some boomer with 62 followers says, well, you're just controlled opposition. What the hell is the controlled opposition? I'm trying to tell you how to win the election. Affordability is the number one issue for Americans right now, and they do not think Donald Trump has fixed the economic problems. In fact, according to the Congressional Budget Office, the San Francisco Fed, the St. Louis Fed, the New York Fed, the National Taxpayer Union, and the Tax Foundation, 95% of the tariffs are being covered by American citizens. The average American paid more than $1,000 last year related to tariffs. I'm feeling this in my house right now. We have a Bosch dishwasher, and it has broken. And it's going to take 2 weeks to get a part because the part is having to come from the manufacturing facility. And guess what? The part is going to be tariffed, and I got to pay the tariff because it's German. Feeling this in my house. I would just say stop lying to yourselves. Republicans are lying to themselves about where they are right now. And here comes the president of the United States right now and says, I am not going to do a reconciliation package. Everything I wanted done has been done. He said that yesterday. This is the end of the Trump administration if he does this. He's given up on trying to legislate. Mr. President, you have the opportunity to pass more historic legislation that the filibuster can't block. Why aren't you doing it? Even a small package. Why aren't you doing it? This makes no sense to me. And this is the problem, and this is why I'm frustrated. I think Donald Trump is better than Kamala Harris. I'm glad Donald Trump is in the White House and not Kamala Harris. But we should all acknowledge that the president doesn't have a governing philosophy. He governs by his whims. And we're at the moment where the whims cease to be productive. He's trying to keep a bridge closed in Canada. He actually gave an interview with Larry Kudlow where he acknowledged that he set the tariff rate on Switzerland higher because the president of Switzerland annoyed him. We just saw them argue in the United States Supreme Court back in November that the tariffs were set because it was an emergency, and he just admitted on Larry Kudlow's show yesterday that he set Switzerland's tariff at 39% because the president of Switzerland annoyed him in a phone call. And then there was so much blowback that he lowered it. When you govern on whims and not political philosophy, eventually you run out of things you need to do. And I'm really frustrated because I see where the Democrats are. The Democrats are going nuts. The Democrats are angry. You know, Vox.com. Vox is where the left-wing kids go to explain the news to each other. They've got a writer at Vox.com who is convinced, he has convinced himself and is trying to convince his readers that the president of the United States is going to use the military in November to seize ballots and steal the election, which is bat crap crazy. That's the sort of stolen election stuff Republicans engaged in 2020 that wasn't mentally healthy, and that's where they are now. The left is convinced that Donald Trump is going to use the military to steal the election in November. And when you whip yourself into a frenzy and it doesn't come to pass, you've exposed yourself so much as a fool you can't acknowledge it. And so what you're going to have to say, well, they would have done it if they could have. We need to stop them from doing it. It's what we're seeing with the Democrats in Virginia. They claimed affordability was their issue. The first thing they did was raise taxes. And then this wild redistricting of Virginia to try to preserve power for all times. My buddy Dan McLaughlin has a piece in National Review. I do not recommend you read it because it'll scare you. Oh, and if the Democrat insanity continues, they could seriously play for keeps. Try to pass a law that does national redistricting to keep the Republicans out of power for as long as they can. Y'all, we're on the verge of losing the Senate. And here's what's happening in Texas. In Texas, the Texas Republican base hates John Cornyn. They don't think he's sufficiently MAGA. They don't think he's sufficiently conservative. And frankly, they're kind of right. The problem is the person that the Texas conservatives have decided they want to nominate is Ken Paxton, who has been indicted, who is a serial adulterer on his wife, who makes Democrats and independents want to vote Democrat. Ken Paxton can absolutely get elected in November, but the amount of money spent to get him elected is going to take the Republicans off the table from picking up Georgia and might actually cost the Republicans North Carolina, where Roy Cooper, the former governor, is running against Michael Whatley, who's not gaining traction with independents. We've got to go all hands on deck in Georgia, North Carolina, and we're going to have to divert resources to Texas to help Ken Paxton because the Texas Republican base has decided to be suicidal and throw out John Cornyn, who Donald Trump has chosen not to endorse in the race. And a Trump endorsement would help John Cornyn push across the finish line against Ken Paxton. And this is going to cost us money. And the president has been playing on whims, not on ideology, not on principle, and not on governing philosophy. If it tickles his ear, he decides to do it. He shut down the bridge in Michigan because he wants wants compromise from Canada. He set the rate in Switzerland on tariffs because the president of Switzerland offended him. Y'all, we can't keep doing this. We're going to watch the Democrats take the House and the Senate. We have an opportunity to show the American public that we are on their side and care about affordability issues, and we can pass legislation through the Senate without the filibuster being an impact through reconciliation. And the president has said, nope, not going to do it. Instead, what's he doing? He wants to get Penn Station in New York named after himself, and in exchange will give New York a lot of money to build a subway or a tunnel. Am I the only one who's frustrated? And you know, the other problem here is when you point this stuff out, a lot of the president's supporters circle the wagon around him, and they get very defensive and protective and say, well, you're just never Trump. You don't understand. He's smarter than you. I see the light at the end of the tunnel, and it is the fast approaching train of Democratic gains. And we have an opportunity as a political party, the Republicans of the right, to pass a reconciliation package yet again to show the American public that we are on their side and the Democrats are insane. And the president has taken it off the table. There are some who say maybe the Republicans just want to lose. I had somebody yesterday who tried to call on the show. They couldn't get in, who's convinced the president wants the Republicans to lose because, like I've said, maybe he wants a bad guy. He wants Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer so that the president can use them as a cudgel because it's real hard to go against Mike Johnson and John Thune. I don't think that's the case. That's what some people are speculating. I don't think that's the case. The president governs on whim, and it's starting to get frustrating because I can see the absolute insanity of the Democrats coming our way, and we have opportunities to mitigate their insanity with a reconciliation package and with a greater focus on picking good candidates to run for office and making sure that guys like Ken Paxton don't get the nomination so we don't have to spend as much money trying to win Texas. We're not going to lose the Senate. I don't want to lose the Senate. We shouldn't lose the Senate. We got to worry about the Supreme Court. Y'all, what are we doing here? This is so frustrating. It's so frustrating. I can spitball the ideas and say, Mr. President, please do these things. You will mitigate the damage if you do these things. I have conversations with people at the White House. And they will say it's just not on his radar. He has no interest. Look at the tariff fight now. The Republicans in the House of Representatives last night could not get a rule passed to prevent votes on tariffs. Starting today, the Democrats are going to start putting the Republicans on the record on tariffs. In fact, the very first tariff the Democrats are going to try to get rid of is the Canada tariffs. And all the Republicans are going to vote to keep the Canada tariffs, and it's going to become a campaign issue for the Democrats that the Republicans are continuing to drive up costs. The Republicans could put out a reconciliation package and make life difficult for the Democrats, just as they're not going to do on tariff votes in the House. But they got to have presidential buy-in, which they don't have. And by the way, the president likewise is now saying he may get rid of the trade pact with Canada and Mexico, the very one that he negotiated. Governing on a whim and not on principle has its limits, and we've reached those limits. And please, Susie Wiles, someone intervene with the president and tell him you have a chance to preserve your legacy with a reconciliation package that can bypass the filibuster. Otherwise, you're just going to govern by executive order, and the next time a Democrat becomes president, your entire legacy goes down the drain. Why govern by executive order when you can put stuff in legislation and preserve your legacy and protect it from the Democrats in ways executive orders can't? It's just, y'all, I'm frustrated. I don't mean to just vent. I don't want to be negative to you. I don't want to dissuade you from voting, but you can see the insanity of the Democrats coming. We should be on ultimate defense, mitigating it all, and a reconciliation package could do that. And we're not going to even try. Welcome back. It's Eric Erickson here. Let's go to the phones. Carl in Jupiter, Florida. You're up first. Welcome.
Eric, I want to say this. I try to listen to you whenever I can because you and I think alike in many ways. Just a few comments on what you've been saying. Unfortunately, I work for a living, so okay. But my background, I'm 80 years old. I've been a money manager of capital markets over billions of dollars. I also have a law degree. So let me, and also I know Trump reasonably well. I'm a member of his club. I played golf with him when I ran for Congress and endorsed. That's my background. First of all, like you, I'm a big fan of Trump. And I think some of the things you say I would absolutely agree with, but I think you've gotten a little carried away. First of all, tariffs. I am adamantly against the tariffs. I've written against the tariffs. Adam Smith, Milton Friedman don't like the tariffs. And I'm hoping the Supreme Court solves that problem. And as the tariffs you just mentioned, which really elicits my call, is they're going to go after the tariffs. If the Democrats go after the tariffs, they will never win the United States. That would be a big win for the Republican Party. Secondly, the job situation. I have been writing repeatedly. We're not creating a lot of jobs, although we had a good report this morning, mainly because of AI. AI is going to be a much, much, much bigger impact. And in terms of the midterms, I think historically we lose the middle. But there's a couple of things I'm hoping, and I am an optimist in here. One is there's a spirit of joy because of 250. I think that's going to bring people. We're not going to lose on the issues. We're going to lose on turnout. Secondly, the economy is starting to really rock and roll. And while it's true that you're worried about your neighbor, people see every evidence is the economy's getting better. A lot of that has to do with Trump. The problem with the midterms is it's the local congressional situations. Normally you lose half. I know the Republicans have a lot more money. I just think I share your frustration. For example, when he said he didn't like the Federalist appointees, the Federalist appointees would support everything he did. I really don't understand who gave the idea of getting rid of the filibuster. That's suicide for us. So I guess what I'm saying is I absolutely agree with you in many ways, but I think you're a little overly pessimistic. The world is not going to be lost for Republicans. Our issues are just too strong, and the reality is Democrats are in as big a civil war as we are.
Well, okay. So on that point, you and I actually probably agree on that one, Carl, and I appreciate you calling in to disagree and push back a little bit. I'm seeing where this is headed, though, and I actually think the Republicans have the chance to rebound in 2028. But 2 years, it's going to wipe out Trump's legacy in Congress with the Democrats there, and that's going to be a real problem for the GOP. It just is going to be a problem for the GOP to grind to a halt all of his progress when we don't mitigate, and we could lose the Senate right now as part of the problem.